Where I see the most alignment on a player outside the top 4, where I see enthusiasm from the metrics community, I see enthusiasm from the film grinders, a wide receiver that I think the NFL will use properly and can win in all areas of the football field, Andy Isabella. If you're an NFL offensive coordinator, you can't wait to get your hands on Andy Isabella because of all of the places where he wins.
Yeah, he's the guy, man. It's interesting because I'm like in no man's land with him. And I've talked to JJ because JJ loves him.
He's the number 5 receiver on our rookie rankings. He's going to be good.
So he has like a wide range of outcomes for me, which is why I have a tough time nailing him.
What pick he goes and what team he goes to.
And you mentioned it as well. There's a lot of people from a fantasy sense and draft sense that are high on him. So I'm kind of like in limbo. So I'm never going to be at the proper price point to where I want to draft him. I mean, him being almost 190 pounds was huge for him, though, whereas the difference of like a guy like Greg Dortch being 173 is a big problem.
And fast. Greg Dortch, relatively slow for his size. Andy Isabella ran a 4.31. So he did everything we wanted him to do. He came in bigger and ran faster than anyone expected. He was the best route runner, according to the subjective scouts at the Senior Bowl. It's very difficult to find a weakness, and he fits the profile of that wide receiver that NFL teams know how to use because it's impossible to misuse him.
I'm curious because I actually don't think he's a pure slot guy. But is more of a flanker, but I could see him get used as a slot guy because narrative street. What's interesting is the Senior Bowl, it was more negative than positive on Isabella. A lot of the people were down on him, thought that he just tried to do too much.
It just goes to show who you follow. According to who I follow, who was at the Senior Bowl, Andy Isabella was very strong. That perfectly illustrates just how subjective this gibberish is.
Yeah, I will say for me, just from an objective stance, is he falls into like an archetype size-wise where I think it can go either way. I kind of look at him and how he played from a subjective stance, and he is a bit of a puddle catcher. He likes to let the ball get deep on him, and I look at he's got tiny arms, tiny hands, low catch radius to match his size. Kind of pairs with how I saw him catch the football. There's a mix of subjectivity and factual, data backed up in there as well. Like I said, and then you just have to think of just a lot of guys from him don't pop. It's like he needs to be Brandon Cooks.
No. John Brown had a 1,000-yard season. Tyler Lockett popped last year. You look at his comps, he has some of the best set of comps in this class. If you're just looking for wide receivers that ultimately gave you a fantasy relevant season, very few receivers have as many as Isabella in their top 10 comps.
But he does pop for me from an objective stance, which is it's tough to ignore. I mean, it's tough to be this productive. I mean, really the only thing working against him is that we've seen like that system and systems like it. You think Eastern Carolina producing Zay Jones and Justin Hardy, and the same system producing Tajay Sharp and all his Uber production gives me the willies a little bit, how real that production is. But yeah, objectively, it's hard to discount him. And then if you look at him versus Power 5 opponents, he popped against all of them. He was productive against all those guys.
That's right.
And you can say that some of it was against junk time against Georgia, but he still had like 12 catches at halftime of that game. So, I mean, it's tough to tear him down.
Very few wide receivers have ever had a better day against Georgia in the history of college football.
None did. And they faced a lot of good wide receivers they shut down, too, and had garbage time opportunities that didn't pop as well.
You know when I was convinced, Rich? When the timer flashed 4-3-1.
I think a lot of people were convinced then.
That was it for me. I was like, okay, that's it. We'll see ya. Bye. I think we're going to call this a day.